So the records are asking us, do you have rules for what counts in your world? Do you have rules for what counts as valid? And this question can honestly be a little bit like Pandora's box. So I invite you to take this question, like to sip on it. Just take a little bit at a time. You don't have to kind of take in the whole thing at once or really take on too much with this question, because this question is a little bit non-specific, right? They're not asking, do you have rules for what counts around this specific thing? This is such a broad question. We can bring this inquiry to so many facets of our life. And because of that, it might be easy to almost overwhelm ourselves with the broadness of this question. So just take a little sip of it. Maybe just listen to some of the context around the question first, and then bring it to maybe one area of your life at a time, if even. And I invite you to get really specific with it, one thing at a time, instead of just, again, overwhelming yourself with what this question might be. So, do you have rules for what counts as valid? And this is such an interesting question because it can be, brought to so many parts of our life. And maybe this isn't even something that you've considered before. Maybe you aren't even aware that you have rules, these unspoken, unconscious rules for what counts. And this can be a really, clarifying and playful inquiry. And so I invite you to bring a little bit of curiosity and playfulness to this if you choose to explore it. But I'd love to give you some examples of what this might look like. So one way that I notice I definitely do this is with work, right? If something is easy, then it doesn't count. If something is fun, then it doesn't count. If something feels really good and almost feels like, again, like easeful or effortless, then it definitely doesn't count. And this is so, again, right, the words in this question, they're non-specific, right? The rules, they could be literal rules or, again, unspoken, unconscious rules that we might not even be fully aware of. For what counts, right? Do you have rules for what counts? And what does that even mean? Is there like a rigidness to this kind of like container of what counts as valid, right? And if you follow the rules, if they meet all the criteria, then they count. And if they don't, then they're outside of what we consider to be valid in our own experience. And so there is this kind of like, rigidness. There's a boundary here. There's a clear-cut like box of this counts and this doesn't count. And right, so with this example of work, it's like, and work is a big one. And I have a feeling that many of us do this with work, whether we realize it or not, right? If we have an easy day, if we don't have a lot going on, then we might not feel the validity or the satisfaction at the end of the day of doing a good job, like we did enough, right? So enoughness is a big part of this too. And right, if it was fun, it's like, I need to do more later, or I didn't do enough. I need to catch up tomorrow. I need to work extra hard tomorrow because today was fun or today was easy. So there's this real sense of like, if If it was too easy, then I have to make up for it. I have to double down on the rules. I have to double down on what does count as valid because I did something that didn't count as valid. So there's this almost like sense of equilibrium of like, I need to do enough of what is valid in order to feel okay. And that is a really heavy burden to be carrying all the time. And so what the records are inviting with this question is to notice, do you have unconscious rules? Do you have really rigid rules for what counts as valid in your own experience? And work is just one example, right? This could apply to so many different things. And if you notice that you have rules for what counts as valid, there is a playful kind of, like a fun little inquiry of what would it be like to break those rules? And are those rules even real? Is there a real rule? A real something? Is someone or something enforcing this rule on you where if it's not followed, there will be a consequence? What might that consequence be? If there is a real rule, then that's up to you to respect that rule or to choose to break that rule. And I encourage you to use your best judgment there and to engage with that with integrity and with your own free will and wisdom. And if it's not a real rule, right? Is it breakable? Is it not even there? Is it not so much breakable, but is it dissolvable? Because even to break it is almost saying that the rule is real, but is it not real at all? Is there nothing there? Is there even an edge to the box or not? Is it actually boundless? Is there actually no edge at all for what counts as valid in this specific context or not? Or maybe is it a semi-permeable boundary to the box, right? Is it porous? Is it a little bit more flexible and soft and porous than you might have thought? And that's the inquiry that they're inviting with this. That's the kind of intention underneath this question, is to notice, do you have strict rules for yourself that are withholding a sense of validation from yourself? Are rules, unspoken, not real, made up rules, preventing you from experiencing the validity of your own experience, of your own life? Is there a rule that is withholding the validity that already belongs to you, that you're already worthy of, that is inherently yours to have? And so what's underneath this question, whether you do this inquiry or not, what's here with this message is your experience is valid. Even if it's not difficult, even if it's easeful, even if it's full of grace and beauty and pleasure, it's valid. And even if it's devoid of those things in a very real way, that's valid too. So that's where I'm going to leave you for today. And I would be so curious to see what you discover through this inquiry if you choose to explore it. And I'd love for you to share with me, what are some of the rules that you notice? Do you have rules? What are some of them? What's one area of your life that you're seeing this kind of rigid rule situation come up for you? And you can share that with me if you feel called to by sending me a message through my website or leaving a comment on this video or this post. And yeah, I would look forward to learning from your own experience. And until next time, I'm wishing you well. Namaste.